Anthony Giddens is a sociological theorist. His work attempted to provide a basis for the fragmented field of empirical sociology in the 1970s and 1980s. He's also served as a policy advisor for the new Labour government. This presentation will focus mainly on his work on structuration theory. As Giddens wrote much of structuration theory in opposition to the structural theory of Talcott Parsons, I'll provide a brief outline in a similar oppositional style. Parsons' theory of structure revolves around the interplay of two elements, system and actor. This theory sees the actor as existing to fulfil their desires or ends, as Parsons put it. The system must also have its needs met in order to be perpetuated. Successful attempts at achieving ends are often repeated, and so these develop into norms. These norms are shared by society and form the system. The existing system then goes on to guide the future norms and expectations of the actors within the system. Both personal and societal goals are represented within this, with subsystems existing to sate larger needs such as an economy, and this works all the way down to personal needs, such as biological requirements, how we obtain food, for example. Parsons' perspective is marked by constraints, however. An example is structured by norms and role expectations, and as these are derived from the system, the actors can make very little claim to agency. As an illustration, the music that's being played below is a remix of Ulver's Lycanthropin theme. It's constrained by the previous iteration of the song, and without meaning to insult its makers, it doesn't bear the hallmarks of momentary or individual choice. All of its sounds are synthetic, and the course of the music is programmed. Of course, it does have a maker, and people have put time and effort into it, even though the cause, that is the music being programmed, has been separated from the effect, the final playing of the music. Certainly this is a kind of music, just as there are elements of our society that most agents don't have moment-by-moment control over, such as the economy. This leads to the key problem for Parsons. How do you account for the acts of individuals who have affected society and made an impact on history? Giddens reformulates Parsons' actor-system theory using the terms agency and structure, respectively. In this theory, the problem of Parsons' endless flow of system need fulfillment is replaced. Giddens sees agents and structure as connected, rather than as two discrete entities. They're closer than two sides of the same coin. The line between structure and agency is analytic, or something that we choose to see. Structure is the medium of action, that is, the outcome, but it also enables action. It doesn't just constrain it, as it does in Parsonian theory. This is known as the duality of structure. The music underscoring this section is by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, and all of the instruments are very closely mic'd, so you might be able to hear the actions of the musicians, the feet on the pedals of the piano, and the other instruments in the way that they're played. The artists are working within the confines of the genre of modern music, but they're also creating something unique because of these confines. The system is an extension of the actor. Actors are interacting together within rules to create a system, and a system that has a place for all of them to work coherently. This is Saskia. She's demonstrating the ways in which an actor uses the rules of a system. You'll notice that the film's cutting between her various mannerisms and responses. She's responding to those things that are happening off screen, and in accord, she's following social rules that allow her to interact in a meaningful way. The same rules don't govern all of her actions, and the rules aren't conscious. They are part of a vast, tacit stock of information of mutual understandings that we use every day in social interaction. Giddens explains these rules in terms of memory traces. They come into play when they're needed, and they're left dormant in the mind when they aren't. There's another important part to Giddens' social action: the way in which we use our resources. These don't have to be physical resources, but for the sake of argument, we'll say that they are. Saskia is using the resource of cards and the rules of the game solitaire. This is a structured activity. She doesn't have control over every aspect of the game, for instance the way that the cards are played out, but she can still play it despite this. Giddens says that all structured activities can be arranged in terms of rules and resources. And in Giddens' theory of rules and resources, there form patterns. Giddens asserts that various behaviours are patterned in and out of society. Rather than being a slow and continuous flow of agents working to better meet the requirements of a structure, as functionists suggest, structuration theory sees new behaviours as created, patterned in while they're useful, and then patterned out when they lose their relevance. The theory is tied together with three terms: structuration, system, and structure. Systems are society's major institutions, for example legal administration, as well as social creations like class stratification and the economy. These systems are perpetuated through structuration. Structuration is people's interactions with the systems. For example, obeying law gives law meaning. Likewise, the punishments handed out to individuals who disobey the law give meaning to systems. An example of this would be the sentencing a judge passes and the physical constraints that are later controlled by prison wardens. Finally, the belief in the existence of social structure in accord with our stocks of tacit knowledge that govern our day-to-day behaviour, like I just said, ensure that individuals reproduce the society that they're familiar with. This doesn't, however, make Giddens a sociological positivist. Positivists, in very broad strokes, believe that discovering social science trends are the best way to understand society. Giddens believes that once these ephemeral truths have been learned, people can act contrary to them. This is another example of the key role of agency within this theory. This idea that social knowledge can be emancipatory was foremost in Giddens' role as an advisor to New Labour. In the run-up to the 1997 election, Tony Blair almost acts as a mouthpiece to this view in his most famous speech.
Ask me my three main priorities for government, and I tell you, education, education, and education.
A further example of Giddens' role in political advice comes from the support of surveillance as an instrument of the state. He regards this as beneficial to democracy. His argument is that the high level of time-space distanciation, or rather, the speed at which we can communicate over distances, allows for more effective monitoring of public opinion on which to base policy. This comes with a counterweight though, as the government's capacity to make socially relevant policy comes with a responsibility to enforce those laws. This means that more aspects of life are now governed by democratic rule than have been previously. This has been referred to as the nanny state by critics.